Welcome to Everlasting Solutions, where the Word of God becomes your everlasting victory. Tonight, we confront one of the most dangerous spiritual battles of destiny, identity attacks and evil labels that try to redefine who God created you to be. There are seasons in life when darkness attempts to rename you, recategorize you, and rewrite your future by attaching identities that God never gave you. But tonight, under the fire of deliverance and prophetic authority, every false name, wicked accusation, demonic label, and identity-stealing agenda must burn off your life. Nothing the enemy has spoken over you will survive the presence of God. Prepare your spirit, because as this message unfolds, chains will fall, lies will shatter, and who you truly are in God will rise with unstoppable power. This is your moment of divine recovery, and every identity attack must break tonight. Stay expectant, stay yielded, and stay aligned with heaven's fire. There are moments in life when you feel a heaviness that cannot be explained by your circumstances, a pressure that seems to suffocate your confidence and mute your true voice. This is often the silent manifestation of evil labels, names life did not give you, but the enemy attached to your spirit. These labels operate like invisible chains. They alter your internal identity until you begin to believe you are who the attack says you are. They mold the way you see yourself, the way you move, the way you expect, the way you receive, and even the way you dream. When the enemy wants to shrink a destiny, he first attacks identity. There are people who have lived under names spoken out of anger, rejection, jealousy, or ignorance, names that pierced deeper than knives. A parent said something out of frustration. A teacher mocked your potential. A partner belittled your worth, and without noticing it, the identities started shaping your inner world. Words are spiritual weapons, and when spoken intentionally to diminish you, they become labels that imprison your potential. But heaven has come tonight to tear down every identity built on lies. Many people battle private frustrations because they are fighting labels they never agreed to. They look into the mirror and see an edited version of themselves, edited by trauma, edited by disappointment, edited by betrayal, edited by fear, edited by what someone else called them. Their true identity has been buried under layers of survival, and the false identity has taken over their narrative. But the Spirit of God steps into this battlefield not to negotiate with evil labels, but to burn them off completely. There are labels created by experiences, things you went through that tried to mark you forever. Failure tries to label you unworthy. A heartbreak tries to label you unlovable. A season of lack tries to label you not enough. A delay tries to label you forgotten. But God never names you after your battles. Your identity is anchored in your creation, not your condition. Tonight, those conditions lose their voice over your destiny. Some labels are generational, names that followed your family, reputations that never belonged to you but were passed down spiritually. Whether it is a label of instability, a label of failure, a label of poverty, a label of broken patterns, or a label of limitation, these wicked markers follow bloodlines until somebody rises in knowledge and fire to break the cycle. You are that one. You are the interruption to the identity the enemy stamped on your lineage. There are also labels born in the unseen realm. Witchcraft projections, demonic accusations, spiritual monitoring systems that try to redefine who you are in the spirit. These labels are used to misrepresent you in the courts of darkness, to reduce your spiritual authority, and to block divine helpers from recognizing you. That is why some people work harder than others, yet rise slower. They are fighting an invisible identity battle that clouds how heaven and earth respond to them. But tonight, the consuming fire of God is invading that realm. Every time an evil label sticks to a person, it attracts battles designed for the identity it carries. If you wear a label of failure, you will fight storms meant to reinforce failure. If you wear the label of rejected, doors will react to you as if you are unwanted. If you wear the label of cursed, life begins to treat you accordingly. But the power of God breaks these cycles by burning the label at the root, restoring the original identity heaven wrote concerning you. The most dangerous part of evil labels is their ability to sabotage destiny silently. And a person can be gifted but mislabeled, anointed but mislabeled, hard-working but mislabeled, chosen but mislabeled. The wrong name delays the right opportunities because everything responds to identity.
That is why God changed names before changing seasons. Abram to Abraham, Jacob to Israel, Saul to Paul. Identity shapes destiny, and tonight your destiny is being reset because your identity is being restored. There comes a moment in deliverance when the fire of God begins to expose every lie you believed about yourself. This is that moment. Every limiting belief, every internal identity wound, every word that reshaped your mind, every accusation that entered your heart. Tonight, they lose their power. You're not who the enemy called you. You are who God designed you to be. And by the authority of heaven, every identity attack on your name, your mind, your spirit, your destiny, and your lineage must break now. As the fire of deliverance begins to move, you will feel the weight lifting, fog clearing, the old voices losing authority, the false labels peeling away. This is the burning moment where the version of you created by pain dies, and the version created by God emerges. The enemy's handwriting over your life is being erased, and your true identity is rising with unstoppable clarity. Tonight is not just a message. It is a divine encounter. Evil labels are burning off your life, and your God-given identity is being restored forever. There are identity attacks that begin long before a person becomes aware of their purpose. Darkness studies potential before it attacks expression. Many battles against who you are did not start in adulthood. They were planted in childhood by environments that spoke limitations into your spirit. A child who grows up hearing negative words begins to internalize identities that shape the direction of their entire life. Some were called slow, useless, stubborn, dramatic, cursed, troublemakers, or burdens. These words were not just careless. They were spiritual seeds. And over time, they grew into internal battles that still fight the adult you have become. But tonight, the roots of every early identity attack are being uprooted by fire. There are identity attacks that originate from family altars, patterns, agreements, and demonic covenants that define how a bloodline behaves or performs. When an altar is raised against a family, it assigns spiritual labels that govern the destiny of those born into it. This is why families can carry recognizable patterns. Cycles of failure, premature death, shame, addiction, poverty, relational breakdowns, or stagnation. These patterns are not random. They are identity signatures enforced spiritually. But when God steps into a lineage, he breaks the power of the altar and restores the divine identity that was lost. Tonight, your bloodline is encountering that shift. Some identity attacks are born through witchcraft projections, deliberate attempts to rename a person spiritually so that their physical life aligns with the wrong narrative. In the unseen realm, names are not just labels. They are legal documents. When the enemy assigns a false spiritual name to an individual, he attempts to redirect their destiny. This is why some people feel unseen, misunderstood, or misrepresented. They are fighting spiritual identities that do not belong to them. But the fire of the Holy Spirit is descending to shred every evil document with your name on it. There are identity battles that originate from monitoring spirits, entities assigned to observe a person's rising and intercept their progress. When these spirits detect potential, they release accusations, confusion, and false narratives to arrest identity. They whisper lies that contradict your divine nature. They push people to speak against you. They stir circumstances that make you doubt your worth. But tonight, the watchers of darkness lose their authority over your name. Your identity is stepping into divine protection, where nothing spoken in hidden places can shape your destiny anymore. Some identity attacks begin through trauma, painful events that alter how you see yourself. Trauma births internal dialogues that say, I'm not enough, I'm unworthy, I'm broken, I'm abandoned, I'm forgotten. These inner statements become labels the enemy uses to shrink your confidence and silence your courage. Trauma tries to rename you after the wound, but God refuses to let your pain define your identity. Tonight, heaven rewrites your internal script and restores your rightful spiritual identity. There are seasons when identity attacks come through relationships, connections that were never meant to shape your destiny, but ended up influencing your self-perception. The wrong relationships can speak death into your purpose, make you question your calling, or force you to dim your brilliance to keep peace. These people do not see your true capacity. They only see the version of you they are comfortable with. Their words become cages, and their expectations become chains. But the fire of God is breaking every relational identity that was imposed on you through manipulation, control, or emotional sabotage. Some identity attacks originate in dreams, spiritual encounters where the enemy tries to rename you through symbols, appearances of failure, or scenarios of shame. In the dream realm, identities are targeted because dreams are spiritual gates. If the enemy succeeds in altering how a person sees themselves in the dream, he gains ground in the natural. Dreams of returning to old places, wearing dirty clothes, losing valuables, or being mocked are attempts to redefine who you are spiritually. But tonight, the dream realm is being cleansed, and your identity in the spirit is being restored with honor. There are identity attacks rooted in environments, working spaces, communities, or social so your uniqueness, belief, and slowly to shrink your voice, dim your light, and suppress your gift to fit into a space that was never meant to hold you. But God is calling you out of every environment that misnamed you. Tonight, He restores your identity to the level of the assignment He gave you. Some identity battles originate from unspoken expectations, silent pressures from society, culture, or religious structures that burden you with identities God never intended for you to carry. They force you into roles that suffocate your authenticity. They make you feel guilty for desiring growth or stepping into your calling. They limit your movement, voice, and expression. But tonight, heaven liberates you from every imposed identity that was never aligned with your purpose. Ultimately, identity attacks originate from one major source. The enemy knows who you could become if you ever fully recognized who you truly are. His greatest fear is your awakening. His goal is to keep you mislabeled so you never rise to the dimension God designed for you. But tonight, the lies are breaking. The masks are falling. The false identities are burning. And your true identity, radiant, powerful, chosen, unstoppable, is rising by the authority of God. There comes a moment in every destiny when heaven begins to reveal the true identity hidden beneath layers of life experiences, battles, and inherited limitations. This moment is not intellectual, it is spiritual. It is when God Himself steps into your story and confronts every false identity that has followed you. When God speaks concerning a person, His words do more than describe, they create. His revelation does more than inform, it transforms. And tonight, God is revealing the version of you that has been overshadowed by battles, but preserved by grace. Your true identity is not defined by what you survived, but by who created you. You were formed with intention, fashioned with purpose, and released into time carrying the signature of God's design. Before any battle tried to rename you, heaven had already stamped you with glory. Before any trauma tried to reduce you, God had already elevated you in the spirit. Before any witchcraft attempt forged a false label, God had already written your name in His book. You were known, chosen, and set apart long before darkness ever recognized your potential. God calls you His child, and that alone breaks thousands of identity attacks. You're not an accident, not an afterthought, not a replacement, and not a mistake. You are a deliberate expression of God's intention. When He calls you beloved, every label of rejection loses its foundation. When He calls you mine, every assignment of abandonment collapses. When He calls you chosen, every narrative of insignificance burns away. His words restore the dignity the enemy tried to steal. God calls you royalty in His kingdom. You are seated in heavenly places, clothed with authority and marked by dominion. The enemy thrives by convincing people they're powerless. But God calls you a ruler, a king, a priest, a bearer of divine authority. You are not meant to crawl through life. You are meant to reign over life. Every evil label that diminished your authority is being replaced by the royal identity heaven gave you before you were formed. He calls you the light of the world, meaning darkness cannot define you, silence you, or swallow you. Light cannot be labeled by shadow. You are meant to shine in places that tried to hide you. You are meant to stand in environments that tried to shrink you. You are meant to influence spaces that once intimidated you. When God calls you light, He is announcing to both realms, natural and spiritual, that you carry illumination that no attack can extinguish. God calls you the head and not the tail, above only and never beneath. Identity attacks aim to push people to the bottom, to the back, and to the margins. But God's decree lifts you to the front where your voice matters, your presence carries weight, and your purpose becomes undeniable. Your identity is being repositioned to where it should have always been, above the limitations that once defined you. He calls you redeemed, meaning every accusation loses power. Redemption is the legal reversal of every identity attack. The enemy may accuse, but the blood of Jesus speaks louder. The enemy may remind you of your past, but redemption declares a new beginning. The enemy may try to hold you to who you used to be, but heaven holds you to who you are becoming. Redemption wipes away every evil label, breaks every spiritual file, and rewrites your destiny with divine ink. God calls you victorious, not trying to win, not hoping to win. Victorious. Identity attacks often work by convincing you that you are failing, struggling, or losing. But heaven's identity for you is anchored in triumph. Even in weakness, God names you strong. Even in uncertainty, He names you secure. Even in battles, He names you more than a conqueror. Victory is not something you chase. It is something you carry. He calls you His workmanship, crafted intentionally, designed intricately, shaped purposefully. Every gift you have, every desire in your heart, every passion that burns inside you is evidence of divine design. You are not random. You are not ordinary. You are God-engineered for impact. That is why identity attacks could never fully erase your potential. They only covered it temporarily. But tonight, your true design is resurfacing with radiant strength. He calls you restored, meaning whatever was stolen, buried, delayed, or suppressed is returning with multiplied glory. Your identity is not just being recovered, it is being upgraded. The fire of God is burning off everything that dimmed your shine. And the you that emerges from this season will not look like the you who entered it. You will walk differently, speak differently, think differently, and expect differently because heaven has reintroduced you to yourself. Above all, God calls you His masterpiece of destiny, uniquely created, divinely empowered, and intentionally positioned for greatness. No evil label can compete with the identity God has declared over your life. Tonight, heaven's revelation becomes your reality. The lies are falling. The masks are burning. The false names are dissolving. And your true identity, radiant, powerful, chosen, unstoppable, is rising by the authority of God. Deliverance from evil, labels, begins with revelation, because you cannot break what you cannot identify. Many people suffer under names they did not know were operating against them. But the moment light exposes what darkness has been using as a weapon, the chains lose their legal ground. Tonight is not about temporary encouragement. It is about permanent spiritual surgery. You are stepping into a realm where the fire of God confronts every identity the enemy hid inside you, around you, or above you. This is the hour where mislabeling ends and destiny realignment begins. There are evil labels that entered your life through spoken curses, words released intentionally or ignorantly by those who carried influence over you. Some curses were emotional, others were spiritual, and some were generationally charged with demonic authority. But tonight, every curse that named you wrongly is revoked by the authority of the blood of Jesus. Every wicked utterance is overturned. Every condemnation is silenced. Every negative prophecy spoken over your future is erased. Where the enemy labeled you defeated, heaven stamps you victorious. Where darkness labeled you small, heaven stamps you significant. There are demonic files in the spirit, documents the enemy uses to accuse you, limit you, or misrepresent you before spiritual gates. These files contain distortions, exaggerations of your past, and false narratives designed to deny you access to divine blessing. But when the fire of God arrives, demonic archives cannot stand. Tonight, every satanic record bearing your name is catching fire. Every evil book of remembrance containing accusations against your progress is burning. Every label the enemy attached to your spiritual identity is being shredded by fire from the throne of God. There are labels placed through witchcraft rituals, names exchanged on altars, identities manipulated through sacrifices, destinies reduced through demonic ceremonies, and personal virtues traded through spiritual transactions. These wicked attempts aim to replace your God-given identity with a counterfeit one. But the Spirit of the living God, breaks every evil exchange tonight. Your glory is returning. Your virtue is returning. Your honor is returning. Whatever was taken from your identity through spiritual manipulation is being restored with double grace and double strength. Some identity attacks manifest through rejection, betrayal, abandonment, and emotional trauma. Experiences that wounded your heart and created internal labels such as unlovable, unwanted, forgotten, or never enough. These labels did not come from God. They came from wounds that the enemy exploited. But the fire of deliverance is healing those wounds tonight. Every emotional identity built on pain is collapsing. Your heart is being reset. Your self-perception is being renewed. You are being delivered not only from evil spirits, but from the emotional residue that kept their labels alive. There are labels enforced by demonic altars, structures that speak against your rising, constantly pulling you back to old patterns or old cycle. These altars call your name in the spirit to maintain old identities. They demand that you remain who you used to be, instead of who God has destined you to become. But tonight, every altar calling your name wrongly is silenced forever. The voice of God over your life becomes the final verdict. No altar of limitation, disgrace, delay, or failure will ever dictate your identity again. Deliverance also requires renunciation, a spiritual disconnect from every identity you unconsciously agreed with. Many people repeat words like, I am unlucky, I am cursed, I am slow, I am unwanted, without realizing they are reinforcing demonic labels. Tonight, heaven breaks every self-inflicted agreement. Every identity statement rooted in fear or frustration is cancelled. Your words will no longer work against you. Your mouth becomes the instrument of your deliverance, and not the weapon of your defeat. Then comes prophetic declaration, where God's truth replaces the enemy's lies. In this moment, heaven announces who you are with a voice that cannot be challenged, contested, or reversed. You are blessed. You are favored. You are chosen. You are restored. You are empowered. You are secured. You are lifted. You are healed. You are seen. You are established. These declarations do not come from human inspiration. They come from the eternal identity God wrote concerning you. When God speaks your identity, every other voice falls silent. Finally, deliverance manifests in boldness when you begin to walk, talk, think, pray, and expect according to your restored identity. This is when the enemy realizes he has lost hold over your destiny because the old labels no longer fit. You rise with a new confidence, a renewed spiritual posture, and a divine awareness that you are not who the enemy said you were. You begin to operate from your true spiritual rank, and everything around you begins to align accordingly. Tonight is not the night you discover yourself. Tonight is the night you recover yourself. Restoration begins at the place where false identities lose their authority, and the truth of heaven begins to rise within you. When God restores identity, he does not simply remove what was wrong. He reveals what was always right. He brings you back to the original blueprint, the version of you that existed in his mind before life fought you, before people mislabeled you, before trauma altered you, and before the enemy targeted you. Restoration is a divine unveiling, a moment when the true you finally steps forward, unburdened, unhidden, and unstoppable. Restoration is not passive. It is a supernatural awakening. Suddenly, clarity returns where confusion lived. Strength rises where weakness once ruled. Courage emerges where fear had taken over. You begin to feel the weight of divine purpose resting on your shoulders again. You see your life differently. You interpret your battles differently. You understand your worth differently. What once felt impossible now feels inevitable because you are seeing through the eyes of your restored identity, not the eyes of your wounded identity. As your identity is restored, your voice gains authority. Your prayers grow sharper. Your declarations grow louder. Your spiritual confidence returns. You no longer speak from survival. You speak from dominion. You no longer beg for breakthroughs. You command them. You no longer fear the enemy's labels. You enforce heaven's verdict over your destiny. This is where restoration meets activation. Your identity becomes a weapon, and your voice becomes a key. Destiny begins to recognize you again. The doors that once ignored you begin to respond. Opportunities that once overlooked you begin to locate you. Favor that seemed delayed begins to rush toward you. This is the power of identity restoration. The world responds differently when you walk in the truth of who you are. Heaven begins to align pathways, connections, and instructions to match the identity God has awakened within you. What was once stagnant begins to accelerate, because identity carries momentum. In restoration, relationships shift. Connections that misnamed you fall away, and those who carry divine recognition begin to enter your life. God surrounds you with people who see your worth, honor your calling, and speak to the greatness within you. These people do not call you by your past. They call you by your assignment. They activate your purpose and confirm your identity. Restoration removes the voices that wounded you and brings voices that water you. As your identity rises, your destiny begins to unfold in dimensions you never imagined. Creativity awakens, wisdom increases, insight sharpens. Gifts you thought were dormant begin to operate again. Dreams you had abandoned begin to breathe again. This is not just healing, this is revival. The real you is being resurrected by the power of God. You step into spaces as someone who knows they belong there. You speak into situations with the authority of someone sent by heaven. Then comes the rebuilding of self-perception. You begin to believe what God says about you without argument or hesitation. You stop measuring yourself by failures, delays, or human opinions. Your identity becomes anchored in divine truth, not emotional turbulence. You walk with the posture of someone chosen, not someone uncertain. Your restored identity becomes your spiritual armor, shielding you from future attacks that once easily penetrated your heart. Restoration also brings a shift in destiny speed. Where you once crawled, you now run. Where you once hesitated, you now advance boldly. Identity attacks used to slow you down because they weakened your internal compass. But when identity is restored, direction becomes clear. Purpose becomes urgent. Your spirit stops tolerating delay because you now recognize the magnitude of who you are and the importance of your assignment. You step into your divine season with synchronicity and spiritual precision. Finally, restoration seals you in truth. The identity God restores cannot be replaced by new attacks. It becomes your permanent spiritual signature. You carry it into prayer, into purpose, into relationships, into decisions, and into every dimension of your destiny. You rise each day, knowing you are God's masterpiece, unshaken, unaltered, and unmislabeled. The identity wars of your past no longer define you. What once covered you in shame now becomes a testimony of transformation. You emerge with fire in your eyes, strength in your spirit, and clarity in your identity. Tonight, something deep has shifted in the spirit. The labels that once clung to your name, your mind, and your destiny have lost their grip. The identities that were forged through wounds, curses, trauma, or spiritual manipulation have been burned off by the consuming fire of God. You are no longer walking as the version of yourself that life tried to reduce. You are rising as the version heaven always intended. This is not a temporary emotional high. This is a permanent spiritual recalibration. You have stepped into a realm where clarity replaces confusion, strength replaces insecurity, and divine confidence replaces every whisper of doubt. Walk forward, knowing that your identity is no longer defined by what attacked you, but by the God who redeemed you. You are stepping into a season where your name carries weight, your presence carries authority, and your destiny carries momentum. Nothing the enemy formed against your identity will survive this moment. You are sealed in truth, anchored in purpose, and positioned for victory. As you move from this message into your daily life, may the restored version of you speak louder than any voice that ever tried to silence you. May the fire of God continue to burn away the shadows, and may your true identity shine with unstoppable brilliance. You are not going back. You are not shrinking. You are not reverting to old labels. Your new chapter begins now, and heaven goes before you. Step boldly into your destiny, Your identity has been redeemed, your path has been cleared, and your future has been secured. This is not just a message. This is your turning point.